Have you ever seen a photo on Pinterest and thought to yourself, oh my gosh, I have to build this in The Sims? Well, that just happened to me. I was doom scrolling on Pinterest and I saw this photo appear on my feed and I thought to myself, this would be perfect for a dirty, crusty, rundown restaurant. No offense to the actual restaurant in the photo. So I built it. It won't look exactly how the photo does, but you'll see in the speed build. So we're going to be in the world of Strangerville, and we're going to be building on the 8 Bells lot. Originally, I was going to pick a much larger lot for this build, but in the end, I chose a smaller lot, and I only built the right side of the reference photo because I thought it would be too much to build the whole actual building in the game. Anyways, you can see we're starting to get the basic shape down of how I want the build to be. I really had no idea how I wanted to go about it except for the front, obviously. I honestly just built a bunch of squares and then hoped for the best. I think it came out pretty decent though. But yeah, I did have to cut out, I believe, the floor plan, like the back half of the floor plan. I'll tell you why in a second, but I cut that out. The landscaping and the bathroom. The bathroom and the landscaping, I cut it out just because it wasn't really interesting to watch. I don't think anyone really wants to watch that. But I had to cut out the back portion, the layout of the back portion, just because of how long it took me. I really had no idea of how I wanted it to be laid out. So I tried a couple of things. They weren't working. So then I was like, okay, I need to stop for a second, take a breather, and then come back to it. And I ended up figuring something out. But you can also see I placed a bunch of furniture in the building. That's not staying there, so just trust the process. I know it looks a bit strange right now, but the whole reason for me placing that furniture was just because I wanted to get a general idea of how I wanted the building to be laid out. So those tables, those chairs, all of that's going to be gone. So if you're thinking like, oh, that looks a little iffy, trust me, I promise it's not going to stay there. But I honestly had a lot of fun doing a build like this. It's not something necessarily out of my comfort zone per se, but it's something I don't really build a lot because I try and I guess develop my skills in other areas because I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but I think I'm like pretty decent at building like grungy, gross builds. But when it comes to like actual like family builds and like builds that someone would want to live there in, I am not good at it. So it's been a while since I've done a grungy gross build and I'm really happy to do it. It's one of my like, I guess not build styles, but just like builds to decorate because I love just like placing the dirt everywhere and just like dirtying up the build and like adding trash and stuff. Like I know it's a lot more common with like CC players, not vanilla players, but here's a new vanilla player to watch if you like seeing grungy, dirty builds, but you don't want to download like 10 gigabytes, not even 10, more so like 50 gigabytes of just like build CC. But you can see that the main build is actually starting to come together. I'm starting to put on like a lot more like decorations at the front and like the wallpaper is starting to come together and all that stuff. I really liked how the front came out. I think I did a really good job at the front. I used that bowling stuff. I don't know. I used that stuff packed and I used the arrow from it and I don't know. I thought it added to like the retro kind of vibe because in my head, I didn't really have like a set time period for the build, but I knew that I wanted this build to be like very like outdated, if that makes sense. Like this is not a build you've seen like in the last like 10, maybe even like 20 years. Like this building has probably been one of like the first buildings, not in this town, but like in like an industrial era, I guess, of the town, if that makes sense. But I use that bowling stuff arrow to like point into the restaurant, I guess. And then I also use that sign you can see with like the soda thing for rent. It has a lot of good retro swatches. And I don't really use, this is gonna sound bad, I don't really use the apartment functionality of it that much. But I use it mainly just for the dirt and grime it adds. It's that, Basemental Treasures, and Life and Death. Because if you didn't know, Life and Death has a lot of really good, like, grungy kind of swatches. I don't know how to explain it, but I use some of that in there as well. I just use as many as, like, the dirtiest, grungiest things I could think of. You won't see it towards, like, the very end of the video, though. That's when I start going in and, like, putting all that crud and stuff in there. Because that's the whole reason for this build was just for it to be like a very dirty restaurant. But now I'm actually starting to put in the furniture that is going to be used for this build. I use quite a bit of Strangerville, honestly, because it's Strangerville. Like, that's the world. Of course, we're going to use the stuff that came in the world. I used a ton of that. And then also, surprisingly, I used a ton of horse ranch as well as Get Together. Get Together isn't surprising just because it's perfect for this build. I mean, it's like a grungy pub sort of thing. But Horse Ranch, I used the counters from it, and then I also used a ton of the Nectar stuff from it. This build actually has a Nectar cellar in the back. I didn't put the Nectar making station in it just because I was afraid that Sims might try and go back in there and start using it instead of like the actual bar. But if you wanted to, if you download the slot and if you want to, you can place the Nectar making station back there and just have your Sims use it. Originally, the slot was a bar, but I changed it to a restaurant. I believe that this build does work as a bar though as well. So if you don't want to play with the restaurant aspect of it, which trust me, I get restaurants are horrid in The Sims. If you don't want to play with the restaurant, then you can just go ahead and switch it to a bar. But I was thinking whoever owns this place that they make their own Nectar. And so you'll see later in the back of the build, I have like a ton of Nectar racks where you can put in all that Nectar. And then also at the front as well is a ton of Nectar racks. I don't know if you probably saw already, but I put like a couple of those in there as well. And then you can see that I'm starting to try and like mess around with a gallery wall. I actually kept that. I put it on that right side that we're looking at, and then also the left side as well. I thought it was very much retro. Not retro-y, but I don't know. It just gave... I haven't been to many pubs, but from the pubs that I've seen online, a lot of them have like walls and walls full of just decoration of like photos and just random knickknacks and stuff. So I tried to kind of emulate that vibe this building, and I think I did it pretty decently. But while we're starting to place the furniture in this build, I will go ahead and give y'all a little life update. If you saw my very first video, I told y'all that I was going off to college, and not like university or anything, just like a community college. But I did my first week there, which is super exciting. It went as well as I expected it to. The commute there wasn't bad, and I found my classes okay and whatnot. The classes so far have been easy. Knock on wood though, knock on wood. But I'm taking 2 English classes, a psych class, a music appreciation class, and then a transfer class I have to take. It basically just like tells me how to transfer to a university since I'm doing a transfer path at that community college, which is nice. I'm really glad that they offer it, because from a lot of community colleges I've heard, a lot of them, they don't have the right credits needed to transfer to like a 4-year. I've heard people say before that they've taken like their English, their math, their science, whatever, and like all their prerequisites for university, and then when they go to apply, they're told, hey, we can't accept those credits because they're not in our curriculum. We need you to retake blah 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 blah. And so very glad that my community college offers us to take the actual credits that we need for like any university in state, which is a big relief, because the last thing I want is when I'm trying to apply to a college and I'm told, hey, sorry, you can't come here because you don't have the right credits. Like, that would be like a gut punch. So yeah, I'm glad I don't have to deal with that. But you can see that we're starting to move into the kitchen finally. Put a bunch of barrels of Nectar up. I got some like Nectar like boxes, like just like stored it away or something. That's to the left of the like waiter stations that I put in there, and then to the right of that is the actual like kitchen where all the chefs go. And again, if you switch this to a bar, that back portion's kind of going to be like a little bit useless, but if you want, you can like transform it into like a whole Nectar making operation or whatever. I don't know. Do what you want to your heart's content. In the server area, I put like just like the server station in there. I don't know if I put 1 or 2 in, but I put a couple of those in there, and then there's like a table on the left side of the wall. So I was imagining that's where like your servers have drinks up there, like that they get for the customers, and like they're rolling up their silverware, and like they have extra plates and stuff. I was trying to take it from my own restaurant experience of like working in a restaurant. I know the layout though isn't the most accurate thing. I'd probably hate working here just because of the layout, because you would probably be bumping into everybody, but here's the actual Nectar room that I was talking about. Yeah, you can see that I have like about like I think 6 of the Nectar racks. And then I also put just like a bunch of like pipes and just like random miscellaneous stuff. At first I wanted to make this like a cooler kind of area, but there's not really a functionality for that in The Sims. So I thought might as well just make it functional, you know? So we have that in, and then later on you will see me decorating the chef's area, and that, I think I said already, the worst part for me, not only just like layout wise, but decorating it, because it's not really like exciting at all, to say the least. There's not much to really put in there, so I had like a hard time trying to figure out actually what to put in there, if that makes sense. But I put like a menu board up there, a bunch of miscellaneous like utensils, like pots, pans, whatever. And I think that was the majority. I tried putting like a fan in there just for like the realism purposes, because if you've never been in our kitchen before, especially a restaurant where the AC is not working and it's like 100 degrees outside, it gets hot in there. Totally not speaking from personal experience, but that, yeah, not fun, to say the least. So I tried to put a fan in there. I just could not get it to work the way that I wanted to, so I ended up just scrapping it. But now you can see I'm starting to work on the back section area, and I mean, there's not really much to it. I put in a woohoo spot though, so if your Sims are feeling frisky at this restaurant, or not even a restaurant, more so like a grab and go kind of diner, they can go to the back and woohoo in the dumpster. So there's your necessary, I guess, woohoo spot. And then I also just added like a couple like little bits of like graffiti and stuff to the walls, just to kind of sell the point home that this isn't like a nice part of town. Like, this restaurant is not no 5 stars Gordon Ramsay kind of place. Like, this is, it's not top notch. Now we are on to the part of the build where I'm trying to add like all the final, like, not final details, but just like get the walls and the floors and all that stuff down. I was struggling a lot with the flooring though in the main section. The back section I already knew I wanted to use, I think it was the Strangerville floors, but I used the Strangerville floors in the back just because, again, dirty, gross, yucky, icky kind of vibes. But in the front, I tried to do some wood floors, but it ended up not working. And I think the reason why is just because I already had so much wood going on in the build. Like, we had the wood bar back, we had the wood counters, the wood actual bar, we had the wood tables and chairs, and everything in this build was just wood. So adding wood to the floors would just not help the whole wood situation going on. And then I also realized that my decorations by the bar got deleted. So you can see me having to replace it, and that's actually a trick that I wanted to tell y'all about. There is like a CC mod for it called the red shelf, but if you don't use CC like me, you can either use Dream Home Decorator or High School Years. I used High School Years, but basically you take whatever shelf, let's say the High School Years ones, you take the square version of it. It has to be the square one. I mean, you could probably use a different one, but I just use the square, and you line it up to wherever your shelf is, because most of you know, if you raise something up with the 9 key, sometimes the item is floating, but with this method it doesn't float. So you alt place the High School Years or Dream Home Decorator shelf to wherever you want it to be, and then you slot the item that you want to it. Then you take the item off and you alt place it back to like where specifically you want it on the shelf. I know I'm not doing a really good job at explaining it, but you saw in the video like how I did it and stuff. But right now, finally going in and adding all that grunge and like dirty stuff that I wanted the build to have. I used a ton again of the Basemental Treasures kit, Life and Death, For Rent, like just all of that, trying to just add as much dirt and like grossness as I could to the build. I didn't want it to be so gross that like it would get like an F with the like FDA food people that like come in and like look at the restaurant. I don't know what they're called, but I just went around like adding like a bunch of like gross like botches and like mold everywhere, but like you wouldn't really see that unless you actually went into the kitchen and like saw how gross it was, you know? If you went into like the pub or whatever and you saw the front of it, you'd think, oh, it's not that bad, it's probably just been there for a while and it's like ingrained in the walls. But no, it's just a really gross place that probably has like you know what I should have added? I should have added like a rat hole in the wall and like have rats running around the kitchen. That would have been good. But yeah, you can see now that I'm starting to just add the final touches to the build. I forgot to add the bar stool chairs, so I had to add them in last second. But I'm just going around checking everything, making sure it's as gross as I want and it's to my liking. But yeah, we're about to go in game right now and I will show you all around this filthy place. Alright, here I am in game. So if you walk in, you got a little entrance area right here that leads you into the actual main area of the pub, I guess. To the left is the bathroom in case your Sims need to use it. If you come in here, servers area, there's the Nectar area I was talking about, and I already stocked it up with a couple things of Nectar in case you wanted like to get a head start on it. And then over here is the chef's station. Also, forgot to mention, but there's some more Nectar in that rack area, but it works as a bar. And then I uploaded it to the gallery as a restaurant, so all the outfits are custom done. I redid the whole menu as well, so it's easy for you to just pop it in your game and use it if you want. But yeah, that's all I have for this video today. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave me a like, a comment, and maybe even a subscribe. I hope you are having an awesome morning, evening, day, night, wherever you are, and I will catch y'all in my next video. Peace out.